report focus. You really want to focus in on exactly what you're trying to do and make certain your report reflects that. You may want to change it too. If you're in a regular group on a typical basis, on a monthly meeting or even a weekly meeting, and you have a report, you may want to change your format as you come through the process, but always be consistent. The first thing you always do, one of the hardest things in the world of business, is to define the problem. What can we do about problem X? State the problem and start there as a description as to what you're talking about. If you don't state that up front, then put it at the end, like sometimes you're taught in other types of courses, you have a problem because a person's wandering and then they finally come to a conclusion. No, in the world of business, start with the problem and then describe how you're going to solve the problem, and then sit down there and have a conclusion at the very end about what you did about the problem. State the purpose, okay, problem, purpose, and then you want to sit down. They're based on solid, accurate, verifiable facts from sources that come from company records, printed materials, digital sources by the time you're online, and then also observe things, surveys and questionnaires, and also interviews. All 6 of these sources really are very helpful because they give you more than just yourself talking. You're bringing other people and other data in there to support what you're talking about. That's a big deal. Sometimes you write a trip report. Sometimes you go to a convention and your boss expects to have a report about what you learned there to verify that you're there, and also maybe share with other people. Identify the event. Once again, you're identifying exactly what it's about. Preview the topics that be discussed, and then sit down. Headings, bullets, enhance readability. We talked about headings. Bullets are really good. And then also don't have bullets on every page. If you have multiple ones, bullets, numbers, letters, change it up a little bit to keep your report interesting. You always want to express appreciation. If you have a boss that sat down and used company money to go through and send you off to conference, always say thank you. People like it. It's the way you're supposed to operate anyway as a human being, being polite to other people. And also, if you want to go again, you got to say thank you. Okay. Mention the value of the trip or the event to yourself and also to the company, and offer to share the information or do a presentation on it. Make certain you follow everything in accounting. Submit expenses if requested separately. Sometimes there's a per diem as you come through. So think about the process. Specify an interim report when you're going through a project. You always want to report, update the boss, update a group by the time you're done, provide background if necessary, if they're not educated about the topic itself. Describe the work completed at this point. You can use a Gantt chart if you need to do that as well in the process. Explain the work currently in process, include names, activities, methods, and locations. Make it interesting. Sometimes, they're in the office shuffling paper all day long. And you talk about construction, sometimes it's kind of a nice thing to sit down and visualize, or even go out and take a look at the construction project and see progress on it or see pictures of it as you go through. Meetings of minutes, especially if you're in a formal committee, you need to take minutes of them. And so here you have a whole series of things that are standard pretty much in minutes. Minutes are a formal record of the activities of the group that you're in. Group's name, date, time, place. I like to put the mission of the committee right there in the heading to keep everything on track. I had to do that because a lot of times you have people wandering off, coming up with different subjects, and then the chair can just come back and say, well, that's a good topic. We can put it in a parking lot and talk about it later on. But for right now, that's not the scope of our thing. We can pass that bit of tidbit on to a different committee. Let's get back to task. Identify who's there and who's not. Okay, that also is a big deal. Here's a trick also on minutes. I typically, if I'm in a meeting, I will always provide a first or second approval of the minutes, and that way my name gets in there twice as an attendee, and also I'm also formally on the record. It's kind of a nice political smart thing to do. Record the brief discussion. When you do minutes, that doesn't mean you track everything that is said. When you do minutes, you record the actions of the committee. So be careful about that. If somebody has an announcement, a lot of times it's in there as well, and then have different committee reports as you go through. Include precise wording of motions. Get it exactly right, because that motion may stand for 20 years for all you know. Okay, record the votes, record who said what and the actions taken. Conclude with the name of the person, recording the minutes at the very end. In my case, I always prefer to have action items at the very bottom before we have the conclusion of the meeting. And that way, if we have 4 or 5 different things to do, we identify, okay, we're going to do this. Okay, that was assigned to Jamie. Okay, we're going to do this. This is to Elizabeth. This is over. And we sit down and put the names of it. And that way, we have accountability in the meetings as well. And so always make certain that you always include signatures on the formal minutes. I prefer a sign-in sheet. So here's some of the basic things for future reference. Record formal votes, record relevant conversation that pertains to that vote. You don't have to get the entire thing down, and it becomes a record for future people in similar positions. 7, 8 years from now, people go back and see what was talked about then in the process. That's why you need to make sure you have clear headings. I've gone back looking sometimes 20, 25, and 30 years looking for formal meetings because of a critical item. Summaries. Summaries they're more like a report format than a minute. State the main idea, the purpose, highlight the research methods, findings, conclusions, so on. You don't have illustrations, examples, and references. It's nothing but a brief report instead in lieu of minutes. Organize readability, making certain it's easy to read, and if requested, give your own response to what you think. On justification reports or recommendation reports, explain the problem. That's always a big thing. You're in the world of business. Explain the problem, okay? Announce the recommendation, make certain that you explain the benefits of the recommendation, and include pros and cons. That's a big thing. If you're going to pitch something to somebody, include your position and also what you consider to get to that position. That really helps the reader a lot. And to conclude with a summary, specifying the recommendation or the action that you're recommending when it comes down to it. Also, refer to the problem in general terms in the subject. You want to always make certain you start with that. That way, the problem jumps out at the reader right away, and describe the problem, and then use examples, and always discuss the alternative solutions, beginning with the least likely to succeed. Normally, instead of don't lead with the one that you found best, lead with the weakest one, and that way the people can see that, oh, I see why they rejected that. I see why they rejected that. So that really helps quite a bit. So you want to present the most promising alternative last, show the advantages, why it's good, and then ask for authorization to proceed. Feasibility reports announce what it's about. Okay, we feel that this is appropriate based upon the following information, and put it out there right away. Describe the background, the benefits, and the problems that can result. Be honest and upfront. If it's being done too quickly, you need to say that, and that you have concerns in it and it could damage the overall process. Calculate the cost. Somebody on every committee will always sit down there. They'll look for typographical errors is one, and the other one, they'll always look if you covered all the costs they feel would be appropriate. Yardstick reports. Here you go. Describe the problem or need, different solutions, and compare alternatives and how the criteria were selected and developed, and then also evaluate each one in terms of criteria, and then have conclusions or recommendations. It's a little bit different format, but you're measuring things in a possibility. But on the report focus, keep the focus, number one, on what the report is about. Don't go chasing, we call them rabbit trails over this way. Focus in on the topic. Always lead with the problem and the solution, and make certain it's clear at the beginning, at the end, what it's about. Take care.